Good evening, everybody. This is Lorraine, Alternative Homesteading. I am putting my chickens to sleep. And we've got the little babies lined up here, the little chickies in the basket, and Tucker and Elvira roosting. I'm going to lock up, take a walk. I'm exhausted, actually. I didn't do a lot today, just the usual chores. But what happens when you are a real targeted person is not only is there a lot of sabotage of your life on a regular basis, they create a lot of chaos. And this is at least the fourth time I received a box through Amazon addressed to me, and it's not anything that I ordered. One time, actually twice, they sent me blonde hair dye. Yes, blonde hair dye. Another time they sent me a beard hair dye. And another time, like today, I don't even know if I could say it on YouTube. They sent me a male to male vibrator. Penis. Yes, folks. When you're a targeted person, you get a lot of weird things in the mail. They intercept your mail. I'll give you a quick example. I have an eBay store, and my cousin sent my mother a pair of beautiful designer shoes, but she didn't really like them. They weren't her style, so she mailed them to me, and they were brand new, literally new. She showed me pictures before. They were really pretty. And it was delayed. The package took a long time to get to me, and when I opened it, I was shocked at the condition of the shoes. Because one, I know that my mother is very particular, and so is my cousin. They would never wear a pair of shoes, especially that were damaged in any way. So actually these shoes were damaged. So I sent my mother photos of it, and she was shocked. You know, the cognitive dissonance that we experience as a targeted person, or let's say your house is broken into, just a regular individual. And I'm just locking a door here, folks. Just excuse me for 1 minute here. And you know, when you walk into your house and you don't think that your house is going to be broken into, but then it is, and you experience this shock and sadness all at once, and at first it's disbelief. You just don't believe that it happened to you. You just can't believe. You don't believe. You don't want to believe it. So it's discounted. It's discredited. It's, you know, you just talk it away. You know, make excuses for it. But then you realize that you really were broken into. You really were violated. And then you start to experience all of the things that a lot of targeted people feel. Because this happens to us on a regular basis. And the reason I'm so fatigued and tired is because, you know, there are some targeted people, they get something called a V2K, it's voice to skull, where they have chatter inside their heads. This is not schizophrenia. This is technology being beamed into the person's head so that they actually hear chatter. I don't experience that. I have a very extreme high pitch of tinnitus that I didn't have when I lived in New Jersey. It was just a little bit, but when I moved to Kentucky, it increased in scope, and it is 24/7. So it creates a lot of fatigue when you hear this high-pitched sound. But in addition to that, when I go to sleep at night and wake up, my legs are actually vibrating from the knee down. Extreme vibrations, heat. I'll go to bed and I'll take the temperature of my feet, and they might be, you know, 80 degrees, let's say, after I get out of the shower. When I wake up in the morning after having been at rest, asleep, the temperature of my feet is 94 degrees. They are burning up. I am being radiated with radio frequencies. This is to intentionally do harm. This has been going on for quite a long time here in Kentucky. And I believe that I now have the location and the perpetrators that are doing this to me, because I had a forensic analysis report, 6 of them, of my cameras, my security cameras. There's chatter in the background, conversations about the things that they're doing to people, and they name names, etc. And what they also do, and they do this to women, is they target the uterus. They send pulse microwave radiation frequencies to the uterus. They hate women. They just absolutely despise women, the reproductive organs and stuff. But what it does, and other targeted females have attested to, that sometimes they will wake up and their stomach is so bloated that they look like they're 5 months pregnant when they would normally have a very flat abdomen. And this has been happening to me the last couple of weeks. For the people that know me, they know that, you know, I have always had like a totally flat stomach. You know, in my 50s, I had, I guess you could say I had abs when I was working out at the gym and stuff. But my stomach has always been extremely flat. But since I moved to Kentucky, after having been here about a year and a half, my stomach became distended from the radio frequencies that are being pulsed into my house and into my body externally, period. I now have proof through forensics report that there is an 8-point kill grid around my property. That's right, folks. I'm just saying it out loud. And it's deeply disturbing to think that, you know, you can own a property and have this invasive technology all around us. I'm not the only individual. I'm not the only person this is happening to. I'm just going to speak out about it now because, you know what? As long as they're slow killing me, I might as well talk about it, right? So this is another slow kill, sabotage, a psychological operation that they do. They enter my house and they knock things over. This happened today. I walked into my house from being in the nonprofit building, and there were a whole bunch of things that had fallen on the floor that were stacked on the side. There's no way that that could have happened by itself. Somebody was in there and either ran into it or intentionally, you know, to let me know that they were there, knock things down. There was nobody else in there except me. So, and I was gone for about 20 minutes. And when I returned, somebody had been in and out of my house already. So, I'm burning trash. And I'm doing my Friday night chores here. So just bear with me. I had the grass cut today, the second time literally in 5 days, because we've had so much rain here and the grass is just growing like crazy. And you could see that I have raked all the grass that was cut that won't mulch up. And now I've got to collect it all and bring it to a little place that I have on the side of the property that has a little bit of a depression, rather than, you know, haul in topsoil, which can be very costly. I've been collecting a lot of my grass clippings and just dumping them there, you know, to fill it in. So I've got a lot of grass clippings tonight. But one of the psychological operations they perform, and they did the same thing to me in New Jersey. I lived in Manalapan, New Jersey, 52 Sutton Drive, Northfield Estates, for 30 years as the original owner. I renovated it top to bottom. It was a beautiful house. I put an addition onto it. It was the largest house on the block. And I guess like some people, I would put up, those little icicle lights, the cute little white icicle lights to give light around the sliding door. And the criminals, which is what I call them, the criminals would frequently go in there and sabotage the lights. So I would go out, my usual errands, come back, and then at night turn on the lights. Actually, they were on a timer. And suddenly a quarter of them were not turned on. Like somebody had sabotaged the electrical circuitry or the lighting. And there's nobody else that could have done it, And sure, people in the comments section will say, oh, well, that happens to me too. That happens naturally. Well, these things that are happening to you don't happen every day. They don't happen in the method that these criminals do this psychological warfare against innocent people. So then they would come and turn off a couple of the light bulbs. So you'd have scattered light bulbs. And then suddenly you turn it on and you'd have no light. Well, they started doing this here in Kentucky too. I've had my lights up. And I walked in the other night, turned them on, and on the left corner above the door, about a third of them, third or a quarter of them are missing. The light won't turn on. There is no light. Zero light. And so then I figured, okay, no big deal. We've got a little bit less light. Not a problem. This is something that these criminals do. It sabotages your life. They want you to know that they've been here. They want to make your life difficult because, of course, it is very difficult to replace these little lights, these little Christmas lights, if you don't have them available. And then, of course, even if you can find a replacement light, a lot of times if you replace it, it doesn't work. So they started doing that here in Kentucky. So that whole little portion stopped working. And then last night when I went to turn on the lights, now, of course, this is exactly where I plug in the lights, exactly where the light plug is, because it's not on a timer here. I don't have as many electrical outlets here. It's such a small house that I unplug it at night so that I could use it for something else during the day. So I plugged it in last night. And exactly where I plug it in, one lone little light bulb did not turn on. And then tonight, two more little lone light bulbs that did not turn on. Oh, and I want to show you what they did to my gate. You want to see my gate here? I've shown you this before, but this is what they do to my gate. They chipped the paint off. This is intentional. This is not something that happens by itself, and I've painted this gate 5 times already. You can see all the different colors. It was red, it was silver, it was black, and then I decided, I guess sometime last year, I said, you know what? If they're going to torment me, I'm just going to paint my gate hot pink. So I painted it hot pink, and they immediately scraped that off. But this is what they've done to my gate. You see that, folks? This is what I mean. It's constant. The sabotage is constant. And no, I'm not going to stay quiet about it. Like, I've had people say, well, when you talk out about it, you X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, you know what? I am not going to be victimized and tormented by these criminals and stay quiet about it. And I will say it for the record. I would never commit suicide. Never. Not only do I value my life, I value the life of all the people, all my family members, my friends that would be tormented to think that I would ever do such a thing. I would never commit suicide. I would never take my life, not even by accident. Which, of course, you know, that's what they do with targeted people. They like to set you up for an accident. They want to microwave you with radio frequencies every night, heat up your body every night, cook you literally from the inside out. It's called slow kill for a reason. Because then when a targeted person finally dies, they'll say, oh, it happened naturally. It was naturally occurring. Well, I'm sorry, folks. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke marijuana. I don't take pharmaceutical drugs. I don't even take an aspirin. I don't drink soda. I don't eat foods with hydrogenated vegetable oils or too much sodium or too much sugar. And I eat, to the best of my ability, the most organic, pesticide-free foods. Do I cheat? Sure. I eat chocolate. I'll eat a cupcake. I'll eat some cookies. But generally, even those are better made cookies and chocolates, etc. I worked out my whole life. As a teenager, I was a ballet dancer. I was a gymnastic teacher at camp. I was in really good physical condition, even through my 50s. Actually, at 54 years old, I was in the best physical condition of my life. I was working out at the gym 5 times a week. I was lifting weights. I was running on a treadmill. I even, one of my ex-boyfriends asked me what I wanted for Christmas. And I said, you know what? I think I'd like a personal trainer. So there was a personal trainer at the gym. And I was so fortunate. I got a couple of months of personal training. And I don't even remember his name now. But what I do remember is he would say to me every time I got tired, he said, if it doesn't hurt, it doesn't count. I was like, okay, thanks so much. It was a different kind of torture. After my workout with him, I would go home. I'd be exhausted. And when I'd wake up in the morning and drag my legs out of bed, sometimes I felt my legs felt like they were wobbly because he worked me out so hard. But the point is that I'm a healthy person. I come from a healthy family. My father, of course, he smoked way too many cigarettes, but my mother, she didn't smoke, drink, do drugs, or anything like that. And my grandmother, lived until, I think she was 93 on my father's side. She's a little old lady, little Italian lady. She was like 4'10". But this program, and if you're a targeted person and you're experiencing these advanced techniques, these experiments that they perform on a person, and then of course when you start figuring out what's going on, they want you to disappear, but they can't kill you outright because that would raise a red flag, right? People would be like, wait a minute. She's this and that, and she's suddenly dead. Although this does happen to people. You hear about it all the time. Healthy person, you're hearing about it in the news now. Soccer players, athletes. But what's happening to them is a little bit different. They're permitting something to go into their body with their permission that is causing these severe negative reactions. With targeted people placed on a watch list as non-investigative subjects, I'm just picking up grass here, guys. Just excuse me while I'm speaking to you. I'm running my errands before it gets dark here. You see all that stuff I've got to pick up here, and my cart here is very full already. I've got all this to dump. But I digress. So what happens is there are people that have been targeted for years. Some people claim that is from birth because they grew up possibly in a military family. And sometimes children that grow up in a military family, they're just automatically placed in this program. And then there are other kinds of families that are involved in satanic ritual abuse that intentionally electrocute, experiment on their children. I know one woman who grew up in such a family, and the kinds of vibrations that I describe now, she was getting as a child, which is horrendous. And anybody that this happens to is just horrendous. But to do this to an innocent child and not know what's going on it's really bad. And it creates very long-term health issues. But most people, because they're unaware that this is happening to them, that they're being radiated with pulse microwave radiation, radio frequencies that can target any portion of your body. It's called the body area network. And I do have a diagram of that. If anybody wants it, you can email me at alternativehomesteading@gmail.com. It's called the body area network. It's a photo of an outline of a body and all the points that these electronic microwave directed energy weapons are using. They're being used against people to intentionally harm them, to silence them as an experiment, people who are speaking out. And ironically, I really wasn't the biggest speak out kind of person until this started happening to me. I mean, I'm not going to sit around and have somebody intentionally harm me physically, harm my property, steal from me, vandalize my property, harm my animals, and not speak about it. Nobody should. Just like a woman who's in an abusive marriage needs to speak up about it. There cannot be fear about this. The only thing that people fear is that they're going to die. Well, guess what? We're all going to die at some point. I mean, of course, nobody wants to die sooner rather than later, but we're all going to die. I would like to hope that, or at least in the past, that I would die naturally. I don't see that happening because of the kinds of abuse that they're doing to me on a physical level, emotional level, psychological level, and they intend to intentionally break down the person, break down the personality. They don't want strong, independent women. They hate that. That is not part of their agenda. Their agenda is to control you, me, everybody. And I've mentioned this to people before, that what is happening to me is actually happening to a couple of millions of people across the country and more throughout the world. Japan, Australia, Canada, there are targeted people all over the world. London, in England, there are a bunch of targeted people there. This is a huge, money-making, multi-billion-dollar human trafficking